Hey, this is Erica from AcWriMo, and next month is November, and it's often called National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo, in which creative writers take on a challenge of writing 50,000 words in 1 month. Now, sometimes academics do AcWriMo, so Academic Writing Month, where they take on an academic writing challenge. And so I created 2 different resources, 2 PDFs, based off of the 2 challenges that I'm sharing in the description below, in case you want to prepare for this challenge. Often they call October Preptober because you're preparing for the challenge of November. And so in my case, I'm a Nano Rebel and I'm creating my own goal for Nano. I'm not writing 50,000 words. I have a different goal in mind, which I'll get into later in the video. But for Academic Writing Month, maybe you want to write a journal article for a call for papers, a dissertation chapter or 2. You want to lesson plan one of your courses for the spring so it's less work to do over winter break, or whatever the case may be. You know, if you're someone who wants to take on a challenge, then I'm hoping these resources can help you. And so in the rest of the video, I'm just going to go over that resource, explain the design of it, and give you some tips for how you plan the challenge. Because even though there's 30 days in November, it doesn't mean that you have that much time to do the writing itself. So I'm going to switch to my screen share now, but if you found this video helpful, click like and let me know. Or if you're going to download the resource, click like and let me know. Comment if you have your own tips for taking on these challenges. And if you are going to do so, then I wish you the best of luck. As I mentioned, I created 2 versions of this planner. So there's the Academic Writing Month one and also the Nano Writing Month one. So depending on if you're doing a creative project or if you're doing an academic one. I figure most people in my audience currently are academics, so it'd be best to go over the Academic Writing Month planner. But then I'll show you my personal example in my Nano one since I'm doing a creative project this year. So very simple, PDF document. I opened it in a PDF annotator. I use GoodNotes. I love it. And so the first page, after the cover page, is the month at a glance, or really the project at a glance. So in here I have, okay, so what year are we in? Are you doing this challenge? Because maybe you can do Academic Writing Month any month, right? It doesn't have to be November. So let's say obviously now 2023. And then what project are you doing? Is it a chapter for a dissertation? Is it a journal article for a call for papers? Is it lesson plans for your next course? Whatever the case may be, what's the project? And then I have my why. Why am I doing this project? Why is this project important to me? Why is it worth it to take this project on for this challenge? And the goal, is the goal a word count? I'm going to write 20,000 words. Is it I'm going to complete this journal article draft? Is it I'm going to complete the literature review and introduction of this chapter? You know, what is it that you want to accomplish by the end of the challenge? And then days, looking at the calendar, looking at November, how many days do you have to work on this project? So not 30, not the number of days in the month, unless you plan on writing every day. But, okay, well, I'm not going to be writing on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be writing the day before Thanksgiving because I'm going to be prepping for Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be writing the day after Thanksgiving. I'm going to spend it with family. I'm not going to be writing on the weekends unless I have to, right? Unless I have to catch up, which I'll get to later. So you count in November, how many actual days do you think you can work on this project? And then once you have that number, all right, well, if you're going to write 20,000 words is your goal, and you have X amount of days that are free for your writing, well, that's good to know because later on, you're going to figure out, okay, what's your pace have to be? But for now, just how many days in November do you have to work on your project? And then the next one, right? Words, time, etc., right? How are you tracking your success here? Is it I want to write X amount of words? Is it I want to spend an hour each of these days working on this project? Is it I want to spend 10 hours working on this project throughout this month? Or is it some other kind of measurement? I want to write the introduction and the literature review for sure. And then if possible, I want to start working on the, close reading or analysis portion, right? So what is it that you're going to track throughout this project? And then your reward. If you complete the project, what are you in, right? Give yourself something as a reward. So this is your project at a glance. Then next is an overview. So What project will I work on? Again, you had a very brief one. So let's say I'm working on a journal article for a call for papers. Here, be a bit more specific, right? So the call for papers is called this, it's due on this day. So I want to write a chapter about this thing and like give like a brief like thesis of what your project is, just so you got some specifics here going into the month. Because if you can't answer this, like you can't describe what your project is, do you have enough time to prep for it during this month before you get started? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And then the next one, why does this project matter to me, right? So more information on that why, right? So it's going to be part of, I want to have it published before I go on the job market. I need it to be part of my tenure package and that's coming up in X amount of years. It's important to me to share this study that I did in the field. This book is very, inspiring, very powerful, and it needs to have more articles out there about it. And why not write it myself? Or if you're doing lesson planning, I want to do this now because that means that I can have all winter break to just spend on myself and not doing all this planning for the next term, right? Why does it matter to you? And then again, what goal will I reach by the end of the challenge? And so have a little bit more specifics here. You might have just said, 20K words, right? But maybe there's more there, right? So I want to curate a writing habit where I'm writing for at least half an hour a day, right? So maybe it's a kind of a twofold thing for you. Or maybe, again, the goal is more specific. Okay, well, I said time spent. I want to spend 10 hours, but maybe break that down a bit. Do you want to be writing, again, a half hour a day? Do you want to be writing 2 hours a day? Like, what is it, in detail that you want to accomplish, right? And then the schedule. So going back to that day thing, right? How many days will be able to work on the project? And so you might have here, maybe you said I'll have 20 days. But then you might have, okay, I have 20 days to work on the project. But if needed, I can work 23 days. There's 3 days I marked off because I want to take them off. But if needed, I have kind of 3 days of wiggle room that I could add, right? And how many words, time spent, or other measurement do I need to average each day to reach my goal? Okay, well, if I'm trying to write 10,000 words this month and I have 20 days available in my schedule, right? Then at that point, I need to write 500 words each day in order to accomplish that 10K, right? So you kind of do the math in this section. Now, if it's something different, I want to spend 10 hours working on this project and I have 20 days to work on it, right? Well, then in that case, you're basically working half an hour each of those days in order to reach 10 hours, right? So doing the math in this section. And then what will my reward or rewards be for reaching my goal or goals? So again, this might just be very similar to the page before where it's just my goal at the end, if I write the 10,000 words, is that I'll buy myself this book or this journal or this water bottle or an ice cream sundae, whatever the case may be, right? But it might be that you have like smaller rewards. So when I reach 2,500, I'll have this small reward. And when I reach 5,000, I'll have this small reward, 7,500, this one, and then 10K, I'll have this one. So maybe you want to divide things up into smaller increments, then you can write that down here as well. So those are the main overview pages in this planner. Next is the trackers section. And I create different types depending on your preference. And so in this case, there's a daily tracker. And I'm just going to show these, but then when I go to my NaNoWriMo planner, there's more detail. So for now, I'm just going to show you these pages. There's a daily tracker. There's also a word tracker in case you're doing word count goal. There's a time tracker in case you are tracking by time. And then there's just a blank one. So maybe you're doing some other kind of measurement, then you can do that here. So for example, maybe you want to do it by page, right? So rather than words. So my journal article should be about 20 pages in length. So I'm going to track how many pages I've written. Right. And then the last few pages are like note sections. So what I ended up doing, and with GoodNotes, I have some bookmarks here. So there's the brainstorming pages, and then a few pages of research pages, and then outlining your project, and then notes. right? So one thing potentially you could put in notes is, well, what's your Preptober plan? So what do you need to accomplish by the end of this month in order to make sure that you're successful the following month? Maybe that's something you can put in the notes section or other things as well. Okay, so that is the planner as a whole. I have about 4 pages of each of these notes sections, but if you're using a PDF annotator app, you could always add more pages, right? Because if you're looking at the pages here, so for example, with GoodNotes, I can click edit here and I can select a page and say, hey, copy this page, done, and then let's go ahead and add a copy of that page to this project. And now there's a new one there. So it doesn't only have 4 pages each. If you're using a PDF annotator app, you can just add more and more of these pages to your planner. So I'm going to switch over to the Nano one because I've actually written out examples of this. So different cover, but in the inside, basically the same thing. So for me, I'm what you would call, what's often called a nano rebel. So I'm not planning on writing 50,000 words in the month. I'm making my own challenge instead. And so year 2023, my project is my magic middle grade novel. My why, I write mostly picture books at the moment, but I want to differentiate. I want to write across more genres, reach more children. It can help to have a novel when you're queering or subbing. So there's plenty of whys here for this project. My goal is to complete my draft 0. I've already started it, but I have not finished it. It's been dragging along. So that's why, I've chosen this as my goal. Days to work on it, I'm going with 16. I have some wiggle room, but 16 is the ideal. And then words, time, etc. In my case, I think definitely a max of 20K more words, and this draft 0 will be complete. I assume it'll actually be a little less, which I'll get into in a minute here. But definitely 20K is the max that I need for this project. And the reward, I'm still thinking about it. I don't know yet, so that's blank. If you have any ideas for what rewards to give, go ahead and comment below. But then you have the overview, right? So getting more into specifics. So what am I working on? I'm working on draft 0 of my first middle grade novel. And then I described what it's about. So that's in white ink, so you can't see it, but I described what the book is about. Why does this project matter to me? Again, right? So it can help with querying. It could help with subbing. It could help make sure that I have multiple books out there at once, because again, how the publishing industry works. I want to write for older children, not just younger ones. I want to have a range of my books available at any given moment. So starting to draft a novel is a good start here to accomplish these goals. And then what goal will I reach by the end of the challenge, right? So the main goal is I'm going to complete draft 0, right? So I'm anticipating this is probably about 12 to 15,000 more words, but just to be, conservative, 20K for sure would be the most that I would need to finish this draft. And so that's, again, where I got that 20K goal early on, right? So here's an example of, again, how that goal can be a bit more complex than just saying max 20K. The real goal is completing draft 0. I anticipate it will take less than that, but to be safe, I gave myself a bigger number. And then the schedule, right? So I only want to write during weekdays, and there's certain weekdays that I won't be able to write either because I'll be busy. I have things to be doing during those evenings. So again, Thanksgiving, the day before, the day after, I have a book club meeting, so on and so forth, right? So my weekend days can be backup days or get ahead days, but I don't want to rely on them from the get-go. And again, how many words or other increment do I need to average on each of these days? Well, if 20,000 is my max, 16 days available, then I have to be writing 1,250 words a day, right? 1,250 words a day in order to reach that goal. And then my rewards, I do plan on doing smaller ones, kind of building up, but again, I haven't figured out what those rewards will be yet. And then daily trackers. So in this one, what I did, and obviously you can design these differently. Maybe you just have the first block is day 1 of November, right? But in my case, I designed it to look at the month. So Sunday start date, the first is a Wednesday. So that's why 1 is on the 4th block here. And so I went through, as you can see, what I did here is I bolded the days that I plan on writing. So the bolded numbers are the 16 days I plan on writing. Because on the 9th, I have a critique group meeting. On the 15th, I have book club. On the 22nd, it's prep for Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, right? And then I have the critique group meeting on the 27th. So those are the weekdays that I don't plan on writing, so I didn't bold those. And again, the weekend days, they're actually smaller numbers. They're not bolded because I'm hoping to not need them. So in this case, obviously you can design this differently, but maybe, all right, on the first, let's say I do some writing, so then I can mark it as done, right? So you're tracking the progress here of your project by the days. Another option is to do a word tracker. So each of these blocks is 250 words. And so I just marked, obviously not every single block, that would have taken me forever. But okay, so then I can just mark again. I've written 250, I've written another 250, so 500, 750, I've reached my first 1,000 words. And so I just go, and then I created a second page of this, like I showed you before. And that's when I get to 20,000, right? So tracking by word. Now the next one here is a time tracker. So in my case, I'm going to say that each of these blocks is 30 minutes of writing. Now I know that I can write at least 500 words in 30 minutes, probably more, but at least 500. So doing that, this little 11 on the right here, next to that second 30, that's signaling that I can probably do this in 11 days, right? If I do 3 30-minute blocks a day, right? I can finish earlier than my 16-day requirement. But I likely won't have an hour and a half of writing time each of those 16 days, because again, they're weekdays. I work 9 to 5. I do have to do other things, after work or before work. But it tells me, okay, like this is manageable. Like my goal of 20K is possible considering how fast or maybe slow I write. As if you have, okay, I'm going to write 50,000 words this month and I have 16 days to do it in. Well, that means I have to be writing like over 3,000 words a day to accomplish that goal. That means if I'm writing in 30 minutes, I can write around 500 words. Like I have to be writing over 3 hours a day in order to reach that goal. There's no way I'm doing that on these weekdays, right? So that means, okay, if my goal was 50K, I need to add more days, not 16. I'm gonna have to start adding in weekends, right? Maybe the day after Thanksgiving, okay? In order to decrease that word count requirement per day, right? Or I'm gonna have to change my goal. Okay, not 50K, maybe 30K, right? So I like kind of doing this, giving yourself, you know yourself, right? How many words do you think you could write in a given day, okay? Knowing that, is your goal actually possible, or do you need to change what your goal is? And then project tracker, this is blank. So this is just one idea, for example. So this might be chapters, right? So I'm currently in chapter 11 in my draft. Currently, I think there might be 17 chapters in this. I assume it's going to be more considering how I write. But currently, right, the plan is for 17. So then as I, again, complete the chapter drafts, I can start crossing them off. So just kind of one idea of what this can be used for. Oh, let me erase that. Here we go. And again, all of the blank pages here. Okay. So that is, right, my 2 planners in a nutshell here. I hope that you find them helpful. Again, the links will be below.